What's going on, traders? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to do proper bracket order management for day trading, which means properly scaling in and out of your trades and having your stop loss and target orders automatically adjust their quantities when your position size is changed, as well as how to add back brackets to your trade. And I'm going to be doing this all today inside a software named Sierra Chart, which is a software that I've been using since 2021 for charting and analysis and for trading futures. And today, I'll be trading my Interactive Brokers account inside of Sierra Chart and using one of my open source custom studies that anybody watching this, you can get this for free. All you have to do is send me your Sierra Chart username. I'll be using that study to move and manage my orders. Let's talk about it right now. Okay, so I have a chart for Tesla stock over here. It's a 3-minute Heikin-Ashi chart, and I want to show first that I'm connected to Interactive Brokers. So I went up to data trade service settings, and you can see here currently selected services Interactive Brokers. So when I place an order here, it's going to go to Interactive Brokers, but the data that you're seeing is coming from Sierra Chart. So what I'm going to do to start is go up to trade and then attach trade window to chart. And you can see there's the trade window. And I'm going to set up a trade quantity of 50 shares at a time. Or why don't we do 25? It doesn't really matter. And I have attached orders configured. If I go up to targets, you can see I have a 50 tick stop loss and a 50 tick target. In this case, 50 cents. And now I'm going to go ahead onto my chart DOM over here on the right. If you don't have a chart DOM, you go up to trading chart DOM on. And then I'm going to click over here on the buy column, and there we go. I got my bracket order. So this is my pending buy order, my attached target, and my attached stop loss. Now we're just getting started here. I have 3 hotkeys set up, and I'm going to do Shift Z to move this one up. And I'm going to show how to set this up from scratch, by the way, at the end of the video. So basically, wherever I hover my mouse cursor on the chart, so you can see here, watch, and it moves my entire bracket order to that price. So this could be useful if you need to quickly get in, if you're planning to quickly get into a trade and the market's going without you and you want to quickly move your order so you get the fill. So it could be used to kind of chase the market like this. Obviously chasing the market's not really always good practice, but sometimes if you're doing momentum-based trading, you may need to chase it by a couple of ticks. Okay, so you can move unattached order just like that. And you can do the same for a sell order. If I put a sell bracket order to short 25 shares, it's a different hotkey to move unattached sell orders. Now, this study has had the functionality for move closest attached orders. That was the original functionality for this study, and that still works very well. Although now it's been improved a little bit, like you can't go ahead and move the stop loss above an entry buy order price, but you will be able to move the stop loss above your entry price once you're in a position, of course. So that's kind of a shorthand that I stole from TradingView that I think was very good. So why don't we get into a little trade here just to demonstrate this. So I'll do Shift Z to move my buy limit up. So you can see here, there's my order in Interactive Brokers on Tesla stock. Here's my buy limit with my profit taker and stop loss. So what I'll do is I'll move up my buy order to a higher price. Let's move it up even higher to get it filled right now. Okay, it's been filled at 249.91. So I'm actually in a trade right now. I have a stop loss for 25 shares and a target for 25 shares. Now I'm going to use the functionality for move closest attach order right now. So I'm going to move my stop loss a little bit down and I'll move my target a little bit down too. You can see I can move them each independently based on where I'm hovering. If I hover over the last price, I move the target. If I hover below the last price, I move the stop loss. That's in the case of a long position. It works identical for a short position. Okay, now let's show a bit of scaling in and scaling out of a trade. There's different ways that you can do this. Traders that have a bit sketchy internet connections, I tend to recommend them to use separate bracket orders when they're scaling in. Also, if you have very tight stop losses and targets, I also recommend you use separate bracket orders, meaning that for every individual scale in order, you need to have a separate stop loss and a separate target order to handle that new scale in. Otherwise, what can happen is if you have the scale in functionality enabled in Sierra Chart, meaning that whenever you increase your position size, your stop loss and targets are automatically adjusted, what could happen is if you lose internet connectivity for the moment where your scale in order fills, then your target and stop loss won't adjust their quantity because you lost client-side connectivity. So if you have sketchy internet or if your stop loss and targets are very close, then I recommend you to use separate bracket orders. Now, I don't want to overload you guys with information, but if you guys are enjoying this video so far, press the like button and check out Interactive Brokers using the first link below if you want to support my content. That's all you have to do to support this content. I appreciate it. So let me quickly show some examples of scaling in and out of a trade. So I'm going to go onto the trade window here, click on the M, then go to orders. You can see these three items are the ones I'm going to cover the most here. So let's talk about scale in real quick. So if I have support scale in enabled, and I add a new buy order on the chart, you can see it creates just a buy order with no attached orders, even if I have used attached orders here enabled. Now let me show what happens if I disable support scale in. Now you can see it creates an individual stop loss and target for that position separately. Now, like I said, I tend to recommend this if you're working with really tight stops. Otherwise, you could just enable scale in and scale out here. And what would happen is you could put in a separate buy order, use my study to move your buy order around. Let's say I want to add 25 shares more. So I just added 25 shares more. You can see my stop loss adjusted to 50 as well as my target adjusted to 50. Now, if I wanted to scale out of the trade, I could do the same thing. I could just come in and put a separate sell order in. There's my new sell order of 25 shares. If you lose internet connectivity while this order fills, this target up here is not going to automatically adjust its quantity. It's going to remain 50. So there's actually a risk of a reversed position. Just keep that in mind when you're doing this. So what I'm going to do is move this order now down using my hotkey, and you can see how I can move it so fast to basically any price. If I want to move it to the last price, I just move it right here. Okay, I'm going to move it down, move it down, move it down. And now it should be around 249.40 or something. Let's look in Interactive Brokers. There it is, 249.45. So all it takes is the market to go up. There we go. I just sold 25 shares. You can see my average position price changed, as well as my stop loss and targets changed their quantity to 25 shares. So I'm doing some scaling in and scaling out of my position here on a stock on Interactive Brokers using my move closest orders to price study. Let's do some examples where we have scale in and scale out disabled, just like this. Now, every time you create a new order, it's going to always put your bracket order in to handle that new entry order. And when you're working with multiple bracket orders, it could get a little confusing, but just know that the way the study works is it's always going to move the closest active order. So if you have multiple orders in here, let's say I do the hotkey to move the closest unattached buy order, it's going to move this one. If I hover over here, you can see it'll move that one. Now, if I move that one further away by going down here, you can see it's going to move the closest order all the way down there. Now this order becomes the closest order, and then that one will be moved. So that's how that works. Okay. So let's say I move this buy order of 25 shares up. You can see whenever it gets moved, it also moves its attached target and stop loss, like as a group, which is obviously pretty handy. So let's say I enter another 25 shares here with a separate stop loss and target of 25 shares. Now there is sometimes a glitch with the paper trading account, is that if you do too many order modifications, it's possible that your order stays as a held status, or it's kind of frozen, but now it seems to be active. When your order is green lit up, it means it's active. So let me move it to the current price to get it filled. Okay, so now I have 75 shares. I have a stop loss for 25 and a stop loss for 50. Now, like I said, the study always moves the closest attached order or non-attached order, depending on which hotkey you press. So in this case, the 50 share target is the closest. So if I'm hovering above the last price and I'm in a long position, it'll move that 50 share target. But if I move that 50 share target further away, then the 25 share target becomes the closest one. So now that one will be moved. So just keep that in mind. Now there's also a function in Sierra Chart that my study is not covering because Sierra Chart already covers this, and it's called move all stops to price or move all targets to price. So if you're working with multiple brackets and you needed to move all your stop losses and targets to a price, you could do that using that existing function in Sierra Chart. So my 50 share target was filled right there because I had moved it down to get out of the trade. And it looks like I may get stopped out of the last 25 shares right here. And why don't we move the target down here? I was able to do that because I hovered my cursor over the last price, so it'll move the target in that case. But why don't we move this target down? Okay, there we go. So I'm flat. Let's do one more example of getting into a trade, accidentally canceling our bracket orders and adding our bracket orders back later. Let's say we do a buy stop entry into the trade. I just want to show how this works. So I created a buy stop order by clicking on the buy column above the last traded price. And I can use my move unattached buy order hotkey to move that buy stop. And I can use my move closest attached order hotkey to move the closest order there. Now, as you can see, I can move the stop loss and target to pretty much any price. My study doesn't let me move the stop loss above the buy stop price, whereas you could actually do this in Sierra chart, but my study doesn't let you do it to have an entry order and the stop loss is at a price above it like that. That's not correct. The stop loss has to be here for a buy entry trade and the target has to be above it. So what I'll do is I'll move this buy stop order down to try and get filled. Okay, so now I'm long 25 shares. Now, what would happen if for whatever reason, you may have accidentally canceled your bracket orders, or maybe you went into the trade without having any bracket orders? There's two ways of adding your bracket order back in Sierra chart. So I just canceled them off just to simulate this behavior. The first way to add them back, which is probably the easiest way, which is to use a function that you can add to a control bar called send attached orders position. And the way you add that is right click on your control bar. If you don't have a control bar, you go to window control bars, and then you can control which control bars you see. In this case, I'm using control bar 4. So right click on the control bar, customize control bar 4. Under trading commands, you will see this item right here, which is trade send attached orders position. You can see there's different ones. There's one trade buy send attached orders, trade sell send attached orders, but I just wanted trade send attached orders position. Now what that button is going to do, or that function, which you can also assign to a hotkey, is it is going to send whatever attached order configuration you have in your targets tab of your trade window. So you go to the targets tab. You can see here that I set up target 1 to be 50 ticks away from the entry price and stop 1 to be 50 ticks away from the entry price. So in this case, I think it will use the position average price to place these. And now I'll press the button here, send attached orders. And you can see it added them back. Let's do that one more time. I'll cancel them and I'll click send attached orders. There we go. So it puts those 50 tick targets there. So let's do 70 for the target. And you can see it does that. All right, another way to add back a bracket, which is the way that I was using for a while because I didn't even know that this function existed in Sierra chart, was actually I was sending a separate OCO order type, which could be useful too. So in the main tab of the trade window, select the order type selector box, and then I want you to find OCO limit and stop. You could also do OCO limit and stop limit. Limit and stop is typically fine if you're trading during regular trading hours, but why don't we do limit and stop limit for the time being? So once the order type is set to OCO limit and stop, you need to then go ahead and put in your profit taker and stop loss price. So let's say you want to put your profit taker up at 249. So you come over here and you type 249. Let's say I want to put my stop loss down at 247.50. I come over here and I do 247.5. And then select your order quantity and the time in force, which I usually set to good till canceled. And then I'll click sell because we're in a long trade and these are sell orders. So one thing I did wrong was I had use attached orders enabled. So if you did that by accident, just go ahead and cancel one of the OCO pairs and disable use attached orders and then do sell. And now you have your bracket that's been re-added back. That method is a little more complex than the other method, but what you can see is that these orders are also movable using my study. So that's very good. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to set up a fresh Sierra chart install and show you how to set up the study and configure the study for someone that has almost no experience using Sierra chart. And you could always reach out to me by email if you need assistance with something. And I do have a remote assistance service that you could book a one-on-one call with me if you need help using Sierra chart or if you have any general questions about how to use Sierra chart or Trader Workstation. Okay, so I just opened up a fresh Sierra chart install. And this is basically what you see when you open up Sierra chart for the first time. Now, Sierra chart is the type of software that it requires quite a bit of configuration. And I would recommend if you could find people to help you configure your charts a little bit or to kind of get around the technical side of configuring charts, that would probably be a good starting point because you're going to spend at least a few hours configuring this to start. Although once it's set up, you don't have to tinker with it anymore. I mean, I've been using it for a super long time and I only tinker around with my trading systems. That's the only tinkering I do. I don't change color settings. I don't change any settings except for things related to trading, of course. So what it's doing is it's downloading historical data in the background for this example chart book. Now, what I'm going to show you guys how to do is connect to Interactive Brokers and how to get my study on the chart for trading Forex, stock, and futures. So let's go with that right now. So what I'm going to do is, to start, I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to do Cancel All Downloads because I don't really want the data that it's downloading right here. Then I'm going to go to Global Settings, General Settings. Over here where it says Startup, I'm going to click Select Files to open on Startup, and I'm going to remove the example chart book from there because I don't want that to open every time. Then the next thing I'll do is I will go to File, Close Chart Book, because I'm going to start a new chart book. Now I'll go to File, New Chart Book. And now we have a new chart book, but we don't have any charts in it yet. The first thing I'm going to do is connect to Interactive Brokers. So I'll go to Global Settings, Data Trade Service Settings. Okay, so I've maximized that window. Then under Main Settings, select the currently selected service, change it to Interactive Brokers. Now, more or less, you shouldn't need to change anything here. In fact, I'm not going to change any settings here right now. I'm just going to leave them as default, and I'm going to see if it connects. So I'll click Apply. And then just say yes here. It's asking if you need to change symbols to the current trading service. So if it's green at the top, it means it's been connected. If it wasn't green, what I'm going to go ahead and do is show you my Interactive Brokers TWS API settings. So in TWS, you go to File, Global Configuration, and then API, and then Settings. Now these are the API settings. You should copy exactly what I have here, but the most important thing is you have to enable the API. By the way, the API is only available for Interactive Brokers Pro customers, and I probably should have said that at the beginning of the video. So if you have a light account, the API is not accessible. You need to upgrade to a Pro. Read-only API needs to be turned off, and enable ActiveX and socket clients needs to be turned on. So let's click Apply and OK. So I'm officially connected. Now, if you want to find Interactive Broker symbols for trading, you can go to File, Find Symbol. Now, one thing I want to say, another thing I should have said towards the beginning of the video is that trading on Interactive Brokers on Sierra Chart, it works well for stocks, for Forex, and for futures. And I would say that it's not so good for options. The reason is because there's no tool inside of Sierra Chart yet to select which options you want to trade or to chart your options, or to get any form of reliable options data. The data you can get comes from IBKR, and it takes a while to download. So let's say we do Forex to start. I'll scroll down the list of available symbols, and I'll go to IB Forex for trading. So let's select that, and then I'll select a currency pair. Why don't we select Euro USD if we can find it? And then I'll do Open Intraday Chart. We need to give it a moment to download the data. And in this case, it's actually downloading the historical data directly from what it can get from Interactive Brokers. Now, like I showed at the beginning of the video, it's actually supported to put the data of another symbol on your chart and trade an Interactive Broker symbol. I don't think you should do this for Forex. Why you shouldn't do it for Forex is because Interactive Brokers has their own Forex exchange with its own volume on there that you may be able to see here if all goes well. So we have a brand new chart. Now, all I'm going to really show here is how to get my study on your chart. I'm not going to go too much in depth with configuring Sierra Chart, but what I will do to start is just change it to a candlestick bar, and I will go ahead and enable the trading DOM. So I'll go to Trading Chart DOM on. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is go to Trade, turn off Trade Simulation Mode to make sure the orders are going to Interactive Brokers. And in this case, our Interactive Brokers account is a demo account anyway, so it should be fine. I'll go to Trade, open trade window for chart, and then I'll do trade attach trade window to the chart just to get that in there. So now when you reach out by email and provide your Sierra Chart username, I'll add you to the list of authorized users, and then you will just magically get the DLL appearing in your Sierra Chart folder. Okay, so now that you have the DLL in the Sierra Chart data folder, you go up to Analysis, Studies, Add Custom Study, and then you should see here Verlo Trading Open Source Studies. Bring down the drop-down list, and you get 4 free studies here, but the study that's in question here is Move Closest Attached Order to Price. Let's add it to the chart and then press Apply. Now let's double click on the study here on the right side of this window, or click Settings while it's highlighted to get the settings. So this is what it looks like by default. There's 3 advanced custom study control bar buttons that you need to set up for this study to work. The first one is the one that moves the closest attached order. Now the second and third ones move the closest unattached buy order and closest unattached sell order. The number you put here is a number from 1 to 150 because Sierra Chart supports 150 advanced custom study buttons that you can add to your chart. So in this case, it defaults to button number 25, 26, and 27. So what I'm going to do at this point is click OK, close that out, and then go up to Global Settings, Customize Keyboard Shortcuts, and then scroll down until we get to Custom Study Control Bar Keyboard Shortcuts. Bring down this drop down, and now find the button number that you set in the study. Like I said, it could be a number from 1 to 150 for each of those 3 buttons, but it defaulted to button 25, 26, and 27. So I'll go to 25, and I will set the keyboard shortcut here to Shift A, which is what I normally set it to. So Shift A, and then I'll assign it. Then I'll go to 26. I'll do Shift Z, which is the one I use for the unattached buy order, assign. And then for number 27, I'll do Shift X. I clicked here and then I actually physically pressed the key, which is an interesting quirk that Sierra Chart did there. Look, click there and then you press the key and it automatically fills it in. That's pretty good. Yeah, so Shift X and then assign. That's for button number 27. Now OK. So let's show how this works. So make sure that trade simulation mode is disabled. The first thing we can do is check the order size. In this case, it looks like it defaulted to 25,000. So what I'll do is I'll click on the buy column or the sell column, and you may get an order confirmation that comes up. So if I click there, you can see Interactive Brokers live order. Confirmations can be disabled through the menu M button on the trade window. That's very clear, and that's the M button right here on the trade window. So I'll click yes, and our order is now active, although there's no bracket orders. So we need to add the bracket orders in the trade window. Let's do that now, but first take a sip of coffee. Let's go to the targets tab. Over here, I'm gonna set, let's say, a 50 tick target and a 50 tick stop. And you can see the offset type is set to ticks. Ticks are okay, but just know that depending on the market you're trading and the amount of volatility there is, you can't use the same number of ticks for each market. Then go back to the main tab and click Use Attached Orders. And don't worry that it says market here. This is just if you want to submit an order directly from the trade window. In this case, we're using the trade DOM to submit orders. So I'll click over here underneath the last price. We'll get the order confirmation again, which we can turn off. I'll turn it off in a moment. And I'll click yes. And you can see we also have our child orders as well there for the target and the stop. Now, what I did was I went ahead and actually tried to use my study, and it seems to have worked right away. So I did Shift A as I'm hovering above the last price here, anywhere. And you can see I'm able to move my target order. And I'll do the same for the stop loss. And I don't seem to get any order confirmation there for that. Now, one thing you have to do to enable the study to make sure it works is you go to Trade, and then over here, you enable Auto Trading Enabled Global and Auto Trading Enabled Chart. But it was actually already enabled by default, so I didn't have to do anything. In order to move the unattached buy or unattached sell orders, you actually need to enable it in the study because not everybody may want this by default. So you go back into the study settings by clicking Analysis Studies and then double click here. And then I'm going to enable this item, which is Enable Move Closest Unattached Limit Orders to yes. And now when I do Shift Z, you can see it moves my buy order. And when I move the buy order, it also moves the bracket orders there too. So that's how you set up the study, guys. Now, why don't we show how to set up scale in and scale out? You click M here in the trade window under confirmation. If you don't want it to confirm new orders, you could turn it off here. And then for orders, you could enable support scale in and scale out if you want to, and go back to the earlier part of the video to show the differences between those things. And another thing that you may need to do when trading Forex on Interactive Brokers is you may need to enable settings, use order fill calculated position, because the position that it gets from TWS is not always accurate. So you may need to do that. I recommend doing that, especially if you're doing more day trading, because there are scenarios I've seen where you enter into a Forex trade and then it resets your position to 0 when it wasn't zero. But if you have order fill calculated position enabled, then it'll never do that. Hope you guys enjoyed the study. Let me know what you thought of it down below. Click right here to check out some more Interactive Brokers platform videos, and click right here to learn all about how to use Sierra Chart. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.